Well, no, I actually put in a solid 4 or 5 hours of work today, nonstop, just thinking to myself, how would the overall community enjoy this rebalance the absolute best? So with that in mind, we're gonna go faction by faction, and I'm gonna give you my thoughts along the way. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to a new episode. Today, we will be going over champion rebalancement, what Manny thinks all about it. So I'm going to go into great detail in regards to this subject, but before I do want to give out a few shout outs. My first shout out is going to be to Azazel. Azazel, thank you so very much for helping me get my Fire Knight team down to 1 minute. You are a god and a legend. I really appreciate everything you've done for me, for our community. Please check out his Twitch. He's so helpful. He will help you answer any questions you have, any kind of account tuning. There's no challenge he can't take on. He is absolutely amazing, so definitely do check him out. As far as contest winner for Discord this week, we have yet the same winner as last week. Want to Mess once again won. Congratulations to you, my man. You got it down to 29 seconds, all epics, Dragon 20. What that basically says, guys, and I just want to go ahead and tell everybody here that if you're sitting there just using all your resources on summoning champions versus farming gear, you're playing this game wrong, because gear is just as important as champions are. So if you're doing one but not the other, you're gonna gimp your progress very, very much. So be sure to definitely farm those dungeons as much as you can, get that gear, because if you can do a Dragon 20 in under 30 seconds using only epics, that can tell you the power of gear in this game. The last shout out that I want to give out is to a very special Discord, and that's the Campfire Discord, who I will have the link in the description down below as well. People over there are so freaking amazing. I love going there, spending time there, talking to them. They're always welcoming, they're always so nice, and they also have the world records for all the best times in dungeons, faction wars, and everything like that. So be sure to check out that Discord. I absolutely love going there, and I hope you guys check it out for me and let them know Manny sent you over there. I'm sure they'll be happy to hear that. Thank you for all of that, for listening and still being here. I did put quite a lot of time into this champion rebalancement. This isn't something that I just sat down and was like, okay, buff this one, nerf this one. No, I actually put in a solid 4 or 5 hours of work today, nonstop, just thinking to myself, how would the overall community enjoy this rebalance the absolute best? So with that in mind, we're gonna go faction by faction, and I'm gonna give you my thoughts along the way. We're only gonna deal with legendaries here. Before I get into the actual rebalance itself, I do want to talk about the buffs and the nerfs. I don't believe that there should really be any nerfs. I believe that you should take the champions that need a buff the most and bring them up to a more par level, compared to like sitting there and taking all the overpowered champs and nerfing them. Because what happens is, in this game, it's so hard to get champions that you don't want to get a really good champion, invest all your resources in that champion, and then have Plarium nerf it. It's not fun. Nobody enjoys it. What if that's your only champion? So I disagree wholeheartedly with going and nerfing champions. I believe in all about taking the champions that are underwhelming and making them perform a lot better. So I want you to know that this champion rebalance is coming with that thought process in mind. So let's go ahead and start off with my first champion that I feel needs a rebalance. So Lord Champford, he's a decent legendary, but he's a little on the underwhelming side. I do feel like he needs to be shown some love. This is my thought on how he should have it. His A1 should be a 100% chance to put defense down versus a 45% chance, because he is a legendary after all. In addition to that, the other thing that I feel like will be very viable for him is to have his passive place a decreased speed at 30%, the large decreased speed, versus the small one. He is a legendary. He should not be getting a 15% speed reduction as a legendary champion. And I think that'll bring him up to be a little bit of in the better realm of champions, rather than being underwhelming side. Coming up next is Minaya, or some of you know her as Murder Inc. This champion right here, is an okay, great champion. I mean, she is a healer. She is missing something beyond the insane amount of books that she needs to have. What I believe would definitely help Manaya be a much better champion is if her A3 would also churn meter boost by 20%. This way, she's not just, applying block debuffs, increased defense, healing, but she's also manipulating the churn meter as well. So that way, she can be more in line with the churn meter manipulators that are in the game. Coming up next is Baron. Baron is a Void Legendary, and Void Legendaries should definitely not be subpar. What I believe would really help out Baron is if his A2 right here would be an AoE defense down and attacks all enemies. I think that'll definitely make him a much better champion. I'm not sure about this debuff is guaranteed. Maybe you can remove that in replacement of it. I would be okay with that. I still think that would make this champion much better. But if you're gonna remove that this debuff is guaranteed, maybe make Sky Piercer maybe a 30% chance versus a 20% chance, I would say, and then make his A1 a 20% chance. Any change like that, just he needs a little bit of a rework. He is one of the worst Void Legendaries in the game and the least used as well. That would cover up the Banner Lords. We are going next to High Elves. First champion on this list is Elenaril. What I would like to see her added, the same kind of skill as Xavia. As you can see, deals damage from all the poison buffs on all enemies instantly. What I would like to see done to this ability here is attacks all enemies, then deals damage from all poisons. Why is there one legendary that's doing that and one legendary that's not doing that? And why is that other legendary also not blocking revives? I mean, they're both legendary champions. Shouldn't they both be decent or up to par from each other if they both have similar abilities? That's the reason why I recommend this buff. Next up is Bellinor. I did give this champion quite a big thought here. For Bellinor, what we want Bellinor to do is for his A2 to have an AoE defense down and weaken, kind of like Draco does. He is a Void Legendary, so he should really have that ability as well to make him more in line to being a better champion. In addition to that, his A3, I believe, should attack all enemies. I think that'll make Bellinor a much more useful legendary. That covers the High Elves. Coming up next, the Sacred Order. So for the Sacred Order, it's quite simple. All of the champions here are pretty good. For Errol, the only benefit that this champion really has besides good multipliers, he's all single target, and you don't need to increase his crit rate all the way up to 100% because each attack grants an extra 30% crit rate. It's a nice niche, but he needs more as a legendary. So having his A3 grant an extra turn if it kills somebody would actually make him a much better, more viable champion. Because if you think about it, Rotos has this ability. Why shouldn't Arrow as a legendary as well have this ability as a force champion versus as a magic champion? So that's the only one that we have in Sacred Order. Coming up next, we're going to talk about Barbarians. Barbarians, we will talk about Skyle. The only thing I would do with Skyle is her passive. Rather than this being also places a 30% increased speed buff on 2 random allies, I would say do it on all allies, because why are you gonna have it on 2 random allies? You're gonna depend on RNG to use this champion. I mean, this is not a good passive whatsoever, just on 2 random allies. If it's on all allies, then you can actually use her, tune around her, or to use her like in arena or in different areas in dungeons and time everything out in a specific way, because you know every single champion is going to get the increased speed buff. Everyone else in Barbarian is pretty good. We can move on from there. Ogryn Tribe. We got Gurgoth, another Void Legendary. With him, first problem with Gurgoth is that he needs all stats. He needs attack, he needs crit rate, he needs crit damage, he needs accuracy. It's hard to build him. So with that in mind, and he has a low base speed, which doesn't help his cause at all. So I would say increase his base speed maybe by 4 to 5 more base speed. In addition to that, what I would also do with Gurgoth is I would have his A2 remove all buffs. He is a Void Legendary. Again, I want to emphasize on that. And he has very long cooldowns, 5 and 5 when booked. So having it, instead of remove 1 random buff, to remove all random buffs will make him much more viable champ. That covers Ogryn Tribe. Coming up next, Lizardmen. Skull Lord. For Skull Lord, really the only thing I would say for places a 25% strengthen buff on this champion for 2 turns, I would say places a 25% strengthen buff on all champions for 2 turns. I think that'll make him slightly better. You do see him in arena defense late in platinum towards the end of reset, but he's not really that viable. Maybe the strengthen buff to all allies would actually help him become a little bit more viable. Coming up next, Skinwalkers. And this one's a hot topic right here. I gave a lot of thought to this and actually even asked Infinite for advice on this champion as well. So this was very carefully thought out. He is very underwhelming. I mean, he's okay, but he's not really that good of a champion. What I would recommend we do to War Chief is reduce his provoke from 3 turns to 1 turn and make it an AoE provoke and steals 1 buff from all enemy targets, and increase his reflect from 60% to 75%. I think that'll make War Chief a much more viable champion. And next we got Orcs. In Orcs, we are going to talk about Grohawk. So for Grohawk, what I think this champion really pairs well with is an AoE decreased speed champion like Shamrock or somebody like that, because then his A2 is actually pretty good because it's going to fill his turn meter. What I would like to see to Grohawk is I want attack 1 enemy and steals the target's turn meter. This ability cannot be resisted. I think that'll help, so that way it's not, you don't really need an accuracy check for this champion, and you can build him more in a nuke way, and he can be much more reliable that way to shut somebody down if they really need to, kind of like how Sifi's A1 sleep works. Coming up next is Tila. So for Tila, A2, let's just make it AoE. I think that'll make her much better. She is very underwhelming. When people pull her, I get a lot of the same response. They're not happy with her. They're not really happy with her at all. I think this will help her become a little bit better as a champion, just having that AoE move versus a single target move on her A2. And that really pretty much covers the Orcs. You may argue with me that some champions may also need a buff that I'm skipping. I'm just going over the ones that are kind of obvious to me. You feel free to have a discussion with me down in the comments, or definitely go to my Discord so we can go into details as why I skip some of these champions. I love chatting with you guys, and I'd love to get in there and discuss all my thought process with you. Anyhow, enough digressing. So the next one is going to be Demonspawn. So for Demonspawn, we got Drexstar Blood Twin. So for him, what I would like for him to see him do is I would like to see this ability increase the chance from 40% to 60%. And I think that'll make it slightly better, like an 80% chance to provoke, I think is much better. And then make his passive, instead of it capping out at, I believe 75%, make it cap out at 100%. I think that'll make this champion much better. Why give us 75% HP burn passive rather than just 100? It's not gonna break the champion, but it will definitely make him a bit more viable. Mort Macabre. Okay. So we're gonna go through each one really quick. A1, let's make this ability 100% instead of 85%. Why not give us that remaining 15% on his A1? And heal reduction is not even that good of a debuff anyway. I would like to see his passive increase from 20% to 25%, making him get that, hidden skill out a little bit more of a chance. Will make it a little bit more viable. And then what I would also like to see for him is to make his Pearl special ability for it to ignore unkillable in addition to shield and block damage. Why is it that Rotos is the only champion in this game that can ignore unkillable and no one else can? Other champions should have that ability as well. Undead is coming up next. Okay, Crypt King. I don't have an answer for everything, guys. This champion needs a complete overhaul. He needs what happened to Draco. He needs what happened to Mashal. He is just, I don't even know where to begin with him. He is in terrible, terrible need of balance. I have 3 of them. I don't even know what to do with any of them. Funny enough, so as I was writing down my notes for this champion here, because I booked him, I leveled him, I maxed him out, and I was excited to use him, and I saw how weak his multipliers were, and I was like, I can't even make a guide for this champion. And as I was doing all of that, I was telling Scratch that, and Scratch is my friend in game. He's in the Tau clan, and he's also a YouTube content creator. Big shout out to you. He let out the secret that him and his clan knew all along. And it's funny enough because I had it written in my notes. Remove shields and block damage and unkillable buffs from all enemies that attacks them. Make this ability not require accuracy. It cannot be resisted. And that's what I wrote for him, because that'll make this champion a very, very good champion. And what do you know? They did not word their writing right, and that's exactly what this champion does. So this champion is actually perfect. He's perfect where he is. He is here to counter the meta. You guys watch. This champion right here is going to be used all over in top plat. All those thick shields. Now I only need 20 accuracy, and I can remove them all for a fact. So this guy will shift the meta, and that is for sure. So thank you, Scratch. I wish you didn't hold back 2 weeks. I wish you let us know sooner about this, but I get it. You want to let your clan members know before you let everybody else know, so no hard feelings. Dark Elves next. So for Dark Elves, who do I have here? I have Astrolith. What I believe with Astrolith is that you should have her bombs be an AoE bombs. First off, next thing is rework this ability. This ability is so confusing. I look at it, I mean, I understand it, but I don't understand the need for it. I don't understand why have it. Who wants to exchange HPs with somebody, you know? I mean, maybe if it's a boss, yeah, but I don't like it. Rework her A3, make this AoE. She should be Gucci after that. Next, a big one for me, guys. Blind Seer. A2, make it so that she places the block debuffs first before the shield and increase turn meter by 15%, at least 15 to 20%. She's a Void Legendary. She needs more love. She's very, very underwhelming. So that's how I would change her A2. Make block debuffs come first, so that way Torment can't freeze her. Then place the shield, then increase the turn meter. And then for self-sacrifice, I would change the name of this ability right here, and I would include her in the block damage as well. Roshkart has this ability blocking everybody's damage. Why is it that she can't have a slightly better ability? And why is it that she has to kill herself sometimes using this ability? Makes no sense whatsoever. Those two changes will definitely make Blind Seer a lot more enjoyable to play with and more in line as being a Void Legendary. Visix, I wish they did not release this champion. Now this champion is part of the Void Legendary pool, and it's a very underwhelming champion. Very, very underwhelming champion. I would say start off by making her A1 an AoE. Maybe she can help out a lot with turn meter manipulation if she's fast enough. She could definitely be a much better Faction Wars champion and help people out in Faction Wars if this change were to happen. I haven't given it too much more thought besides that because I'm sure that she's on the list to get buffed in this next upcoming balance changes. Next, we have Knight Revenant. Our boy Bistofis. So for Bistofis, make his A3, instead of attacking 4 random targets, make it attack all enemies, and then make the block cooldown skill 100% chance. He's a legendary. Why is it a 50% chance? It makes no sense whatsoever. That's how this champion will be much more viable. I tried to use this champion. I have him booked. I tried really hard. He's not a really good champion. I mean, if you pair him with Hegemon, he's going to be good. But overall, he's really not a good champion. So that's what I think will make him much more viable. Next up, we have Soulless. Soulless needs an increase in space speed. I would say 97 speed will definitely make him a good starting point where he should be, or a little bit more base defense maybe would also help. But I would say 97 to 100 speed would make this champion a much better champion. His speed is way too low for a Void Legendary. And for the moment you guys all been waiting for, the one and only nerf in the game. Yes, don't hate me, I have to say it, she's the most broken champion in the game besides Sifi, and that is Madame. What do I want from Madame? Just simply take off her decreased attack, strip the buffs, put defense down. Is it really necessary that she has decreased attack as well? It's way too much for that champion, especially if she's not a Void Legendary. If she was a Void Legendary, I would understand. I think that'll make her much more in line with being a godly, overpowered epic, because right now she's just way too much. So that's my balance wish list. Plarium will get this video. I hope they look into it. I would love for everybody here. I can't ask you guys more. Comment down below. Tell me what you guys think. If I missed anything, if you have a better idea, I'm gonna send all this video to Diamond. This is constructive criticism. This is something that they look at. When you sit there and you say you rant and rant and rant, no one's gonna look at that. But when you send a constructive video like this to them, they'll look at it and they'll take feedback from it. And hopefully it'll make it to their monthly meetings so they can go over it, depending on how much you guys share this video and how much you comment down below. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.